So I should start this off by saying that I'm not a big fan of the main Final Fantasy games. I understand their appeal, I understand why they're so beloved, but I have never really gone into them. I've enjoyed a few titles like 6 and 9, but as far as the entirety of the series, I could really do without it. I'm not a big fan of turn-based RPGs, and I'm really not a fan of a lot of the more popular Final Fantasy games, especially. I do like other Square Enix titles, such as the Kingdom Hearts series, and the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles series, which sounds odd, has Final Fantasy in the title, but I do consider it slightly different than the main Final Fantasy games, and if you've played them, you know why. But then we get to this game, Bravely Default. Bravely Default is a game I have major gripes with. Now, as to why, that's going to be done a bit later, because there's a lot of positives to talk about Bravely Default first. But before we get to that, to kind of tie things into each other, what the heck, why are we talking about Final Fantasy and then Bravely Default? Well, it's developed by Square, and it has similar people working on Square, and it's apparently the sequel or prequel game to the prequel series that predates Final Fantasy 1? I don't know, sounds like it's Kingdom Hearts' convoluted plotline right there, but that's apparently what it's supposed to be. And as far as the game goes, it's pretty fun. I'm not a huge fan of turn-based RPGs, but this game manages to make them really fun. The game uses this SP system that basically counts to how many attacks or things you can do in a turn. You usually start off a battle with about 1 SP with the ability to do 2 things, letting your SP go down to -1. You can go up to more, but then if you do that, you're going to forfeit turns where you can't do anything, including defend, in which case you're pretty much vulnerable. This is a really cool battle system because then if you defend, you actually gain SP, or I think BP as it's technically called, in which you can then do more attacks in a turn and not have to worry about wasting turns later on. It's a really cool trade-off system that works really well. It makes the battles a lot of fun. There's battles where you can just go in and cream things, and there's battles where you can just play completely defensive and then go in and cream things just a few turns later with your entire party. Of course, what makes it even more fun is that it has the entire job system, bringing a lot of job classes back from the original Final Fantasy games, and a few ones that I don't remember from the original Final Fantasy. And the customizations you can do with all these job classes is really cool. You can use your friends to help get other skills, you yourself can develop specific skills and then give them to other characters as just basically link abilities. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this system that makes the core game really freaking fun. And that's such a refreshing take to me because I'm so used to turn-based RPGs being extremely boring, at least for me, that this core system is a lot of fun to deal with, is a lot of fun to customize. There's a lot of great stuff going on with this core battle system. There's some other things as well, like the fact you can put the 3DS into sleep mode for 8 hours to gain an actual SP called Sleep Point, which basically acts as a really cheap tactic to just one-shot things without breaking a sweat. But that's an extra thing. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can also buy stuff. You can also buy them from microtransactions, which is kind of dumb, but whatever. But beyond that core system lies a major problem. Now, honestly, this core system is pretty much flawless to me. I love this core system. This is so much fun to customize stuff. It's so much fun to use other friends to do different things, to train different things, to get different abilities from jobs that you can use on the characters, like, forever. Like, for instance, there is this class called Spell Fencer, and its main weapon is a sword. But for my main character, I ended up making him a monk because he's more powerful in his fists. Like, technically all the characters are main ones, but whatever. This is my favorite character because the Spellfencer class has the ability to use magic sword, in which case he embeds his weapon with the type of magic, so it could be fire, poison, whatever. And if you're able to put this ability, you can get this ability later on once by leveling up the job class, you can take it and then use it on the character permanently. So they always have this ability to use no matter what. So then I can change them to the monk class, in which case I can give them fire fists. And I don't know, that just is really cool to me. I really like that ability. It's silly, but I find it really cool. This core system is great. There's another part of the system as well, using the Street Pass feature. They really thought about everything with the 3DS. Because you have the Street Pass, you have this town that you can build, and by Street Passing or Spot Passing more people, you get more people to this town, and you can get them to work on more projects, which gets you even better equipment and better items. And this just, I don't know, like, this everything, it feels like they thought about what the 3DS can do. It can do Spot Pass, it can do Street Pass, you can use friend codes, you can use online friends, you can use random people, you can send out attacks for people to use as summons. Like, that's really cool stuff. Like, this is a fantastic core system. Unfortunately, this is where things get so sad. It's bogged down by a really bad story. Really bad story. And I'm not saying, like, the entire game's bad. No. And I don't want to spoil too much, but I will be blunt. I hated this game by the time I was done with it. I hated this game by the time I was done with it. And that makes me so sad because I loved this core system. It was such a good system. But the game is split into chapters, and by the time you get to chapter 5, you should start probably wondering about some things going on. And the fact that the game actually gives you the ability to basically read up on all of these things, basically allowing you to predict everything that's going to happen, kind of should send off a lot of red flags that the people who did the scenarios of this game didn't really think, and I think at some point during development they realized, aha, we're done with the game, and then they said, this game's too short, make it longer. And they did the dumbest way to prolong the game. The dumbest way. It is frustratingly infuriating to play through this second half of the game. The first half of the game, great. Almost flawless. Not almost. It has plenty of flaws, and some of the characters are a bit annoying, but it's still really fun, this first half. You get to the second half, and then things become a drag. It goes to a complete lull. It's just repetitive. Nothing new is gained, nothing new is learned. It's just doing the same things over and over and over again. And it makes you want to bash your head in after how many times you have to do this. And of course, story-wise, they give a really, really bad explanation as to why you have to keep doing this. And it does make you just kind of want to punch the main characters a bit, because you as a player have thought 2 steps ahead before they could even think one. It's just really infuriating. And by the time it gets to the ending, it expects you to be, like, really happy about it, but I kind of was just really annoyed and kind of angry with it. And that does make me so upset, because this core system is really good. The music is pretty great, too. It's done by Revo? I'm not really sure the pronunciation of that. And he does a lot of, or he or she, I'm not sure, like, it's a name, but it's also a band, I'm not quite sure. But they have done stuff like, they've done this series called Linked Horizon, they've done the opening theme for Attack on Titan. Like, they've done some really cool stuff, and the music's fantastic. But, like, it's just really hard to look past the huge shortcoming and the huge problem the game has. And that's just how it presents itself. It embeds all this really good stuff around this encasement of really bad stuff. And the thing is that you'll remember this bad stuff more than you'll remember the good stuff. You won't remember how great the battle system is. You're going to remember that time where you spent almost 4 to 8 hours in the second half of the game tearing your hair out at how obnoxious it was. It's such, like, infuriating thing, and it makes me really question if anyone at Square Enix is actually capable of writing any good plots anymore between this and the Kingdom Hearts games I've played. I've understood that there is a sequel coming out. There is technically a teaser for it at the very end of the game. Again, I won't spoil anything. But I'm a little unsure if I should even attempt playing that based on how this went. And I know it sounds really odd because I was praising this core gameplay so much, but it really comes down to how you present yourself. You can have some of the best gameplay ever, but if you make the game as boring as shit, apologize for my swearing right there, if you make it so boring, it's not going to be enjoyable. Even if you have this great core right here. And that's what makes me really nervous about this sequel. I have heard that they are hiring different scenario writers, so maybe the story will be a lot better, but I'm not sure. I know it sounds weird, like, why would you be complaining about the story? Like, wouldn't you be complaining about the gameplay? And it's like, I can't say much because that will be spoiling stuff. I don't want to spoil much. But the reason I'm criticizing the story is because it does come into effect on how the game manages throughout the second half. It's just really bad. I've had some people who have said they don't mind it so much, and that's fine. But if you're looking for something that's a lot meatier, I would actually say go play a Kingdom Hearts game because you'll have more enjoyment of gameplay throughout the entire game, regardless of how silly the story gets. And that's so sad because this gameplay was such a good core, and they just ruined it by making it so boring and so tedious. Easily, this is probably the worst game I played this year, which is kind of hilarious because, again, it's not a terrible game. It's just a great game that is unfortunately trapped in the cement ball of not really good stuff that just wants to break out. And I wish it could have, but it just didn't. I know it's done really great in sales, so if you've picked it up already, I hope you're enjoying it for what it is. But as for me, it's a game I'm not returning to anytime soon. Hopefully, if the sequel, I hear it does better, I might consider picking it up, but Square, you really have to fix stuff if you want people to enjoy your games. But then again, what do I know? You can just put your logo on a box and people will buy it for all I understand. As for me, if you want my honest opinion, don't pick up Bravely Default unless you like to torture yourself. And yes, I do mean that in a literal sense because you will be so happy with this core and then be so upset when they have to ruin everything for you. Not a terrible game and definitely not the worst game I've ever played, but boy was it a letdown. Thank you for watching this video. This is the most negative one I'll have of this review of 2014, so this one's out of the way now. Let me know what you thought. If you disagreed with me, that's perfectly fine. Let me know why. If you agreed with me, let me know why as well, because I've heard a lot of people agree with me, I've heard a few people disagree with me on this, so it's a game changer, this one. I hope the sequel is a lot better. So, thank you again for watching, hope you're having a great day, and I will see you on the next one.